As we all continue to wrestle with isolation and the uncertain times, it seems most people are still focusing on what's important. This, according to Canadian news anyway, people are still saying it's too early to go back into the world, even though it's difficult to remain isolated. And by focusing on what's important, we're finding that it just helps to balance what we're in right now and to counteract all the uncertainty. We talked in a previous video about Zoom and about how we're trying to make these Zoom calls more meaningful. And we're finding that it's really working. When we create a common theme that we talk about prior to the call, about a few days in advance to give people a chance to think about it, people come to these calls really willing to share. And we're able to connect with cousins and all our family members in ways we haven't before.
We've heard stories that although we grew up together, we hadn't heard before, or it's exciting to be reminded of these stories.
Yeah, and then there's this real commonality, and there's been some really funny moments on Zoom. And often we're talking to people cousins that we may, if we're lucky, see once a year. But often that doesn't even happen. So here we're talking every 2 weeks. So these meaningful conversations are really helping us to get through these difficult times.
People are being stretched in incredible ways. In order to survive, we need to be nimble and we need to embrace change. Leaders are being asked to create a unified culture while people are working from home.
And that's challenging because most people haven't been engaged up to this point. So creating that by working remotely is tough.
And parents are being asked to continue to provide for their family and at the same time educate and look after their kids while they're at home. We've got an interesting story of our daughter with two of our grandchildren, one being 11 and the other being 6. And so our daughter has asked our 11-year-old to help with the homeschooling. And our youngest granddaughter has been described as being defiant and challenging, to say the least. So our young 6-year-old is being homeschooled by her sister, and it's encouraged her sister to grow in ways that probably would have never happened if it hadn't been for the crisis.
Yeah, there's been a couple of times where our 6-year-old would stomp out of the house and throw the book that she didn't want to read anymore out the window or out the door. And somehow the 11-year-old sister is having to deal with that. A feat that she would never have had to deal with prior to this crisis.
Another interesting story is her teacher called for an update on the 6-year-old's homeschooling progress. And so our daughter says, well, you know what, we're going to have to call in our other daughter just so we can get an update on her progress, because really mom and dad weren't really involved.
Yeah. So do you remember that old comfort zone that is a distant memory? None of us are in it. We are all so far out of our comfort zones, we don't even remember what it was like. A quote from Roy T. Bennett says, and I'll paraphrase in a very big way, says that it's when we're in our comfort zone that our dreams become buried. It's when we're in our comfort zones that achievement is lost. And that's a huge paraphrase. It's only when we get out of our comfort zones do we become the leaders that we can be. And so we're really all being asked to become the leaders that we can be, at whether we're working in business or we're working at home as parents, we're the siblings. We're all being asked to grow.
For sure. Today, leaders are being asked to manage in a different fashion. As we've heard from stories, some managers have chosen to continue the same old and micromanage their employees, their team members. They don't trust that the people are actually at home and working. And as a result, these regular check-ins are disruptive to productivity. Other leaders are embracing and being empathetic towards the challenges that people have while they're working at home. They trust their team members, and they create projects where they're accountable with timelines, and it's becoming a productive interaction between leadership and team members.
So businesses are being forced to align more with values and purpose. This coronavirus is changing all of us, and we believe that when we get to the other side of it, we will be much better off. It seems hard to imagine through all this difficult time and through all the loss that people have suffered in this difficult time. But we do believe that people are being forced so far out of their comfort zones that great things can happen. So what about you? Are you willing to get off the sidelines, step up, and engage in all this change? Because it is happening. It is happening faster than ever before. We no longer have the gift of time. Companies that were deciding they were going to become digital in 1 to 3 years are now being forced to do that and transform within days or weeks. So the world has changed. We can choose to change with it or be left behind. Please reach out to us by responding to this email. We always like to hear from you. We look forward to connecting again on Wednesday. Bye for now.
Bye for now.